want to thank you again for coming and being a part of us. We're moving into our second session of this discussion. The topic we're going to look at this time is the importance of honesty. I think this was touched on a little bit earlier when we talked about media narrative, and a lot of people that we hear the word spin, and I even think when Tony was sharing in his marriage, if you ask his wife, it's always his fault, and there may be a lot of truth to that. I'm not saying there isn't, but what I want to discuss is if we're going to solve this problem, I think there's got to be a lot of honesty. And these questions may be difficult to answer. It may be impossible to answer, but I feel that when we're dealing with race, sometimes there's a unfair white narrative. Sometimes there may be an unfair black narrative, and sometimes the truth is only a piece of each. So let's begin looking at an area where, coming from a point of view of the black population, do you see a common truth that the white population struggles with seeing, even though it's plainly present? A truth that the white population struggles to see, even though it's plainly present. And Tony, you haven't gone first yet, so.
Well, I think I think a lot of times the white community is looking at us as folk who are wanting to stir up something, and I believe that makes a lot of them afraid. There's a lot of fear. It's plainly present. And forgive me for saying, but years ago, I went to the Cracker Barrel, okay, that great institution. And obviously, they made a big fuss not having black folks' pictures on the wall, And it wasn't anything that was white folk were even probably thinking about. Maybe, I don't know if they did it on purpose, that they didn't have black people on the wall. I don't know. But they didn't have black people on the wall. And the black people say, why ain't y'all got black people on the wall? Now you go to the Cracker Barrel and you see black people on the wall. You don't see black people. The truth is they put black people on the wall because they had to put black people on the wall because of money, whatever. But their pictures are just, I wouldn't put a picture like that on my wall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the question is, okay, you're helping us, but you're really hurting us. you just throwing up a picture just to throw it up. And so what I'm saying is that's plain, that because a dog, please forgive me again, but a dog can't see very well, but he can smell it out. And every time I go somewhere, you can pretty much tell. These, I'm sure, in respect to my colleagues and my friends here, they'll tell you, we could pretty much tell if you like us or not. We could pretty much tell if you on our side. You ain't gotta pretend. I'm serious. And I don't know what the percentage are, but we can tell. So, we're not all rapists. We're not all gonna rob you. I think education in the 60s has helped. The computer industry in the 70s and the 80s has come about to bring us about where our young people now can get the same education. And so we're educated now. We know how to move, to breathe, and to have our being now. So we're taking on a lot more of a responsibility for ourselves, and not enough in my case. In my sense, there's other things we got to do, but I don't think white folks are giving us enough credit right now. Put it that way, to be boldly say it to you. I can't, and I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying you asked the question, what's plainly present? We call it the Buppy movement when I lived in Atlanta. Black urban professionals, you know. And now you go to Atlanta, you know, it's run by black urban professionals, you know, and there's some white sprinkled in there. But it's, again, we've come, what's true is that we have come a ways, okay, and we're learning. We know who we are now. We know where we're going. And that's dangerous to some, okay? We're taking on a little bit more responsibility. And that's dangerous to some, threatened by it. And so, you know, I'm not going to take up all the time. I want to hear the answers from these guys.
Right,
so.
right.
But one more thing to say, I like the fact that when I play basketball, and culturally speaking, I dunk the ball, and I dunk it hard. You know, and you go to a basketball game, the warm-ups. What music do you hear? Okay.
What music?
Okay, thank you. You hear hip hop, or you hear something along the line. So I said that to say, Jamie, that there is a wherewithal within our souls, brought about for whatever reason in the black community, that brings about leadership, unprecedented. We're gonna take the lead in this thing, and whether we learn it from our grandfather, or our grandmothers, or our moms, or that lady that kept us when mom was working for Mr. Charlie, okay? Then I'm just saying, those are the things that I don't know if we're getting enough credit for. What's plain to see to me is that I don't know if white folk are truly looking at us with integrity, with character. And I'll talk about blacks later.
All right.
Okay.
Well, and then, like, again, we're looking at what are some truths that the white population is missing, and maybe even some myths that the white population are spreading that needs to be corrected.
Well, one of the things I think the white population refuses to see is how hard it is to be an African American. And my wife and I talk about this a lot in my friend center. Especially the older generation, the younger you get, the less you'll see it. But if you watch a man of his age or my age go into a store, watch our hand placement. They're here, they're behind our back. We're doing things so that people don't think we do it wrong. And you don't think about it, do you? It's just something that you pick up through life, you know. And when you have these bad run-ins, and I had some bad run-ins as a kid, and you think about those things, and so you intentionally do things that other people wouldn't do. You won't find a lot of African Americans going into stores just picking up all kinds of stuff and leaving it all over the place, because they're thinking they're going to get in trouble. My kids were raised in a cop household, so their viewpoint is different. Their viewpoint is different. But as a cop, when you stop a car, black people tend to be more nervous. They do. When's the last time you've been stopped? How about you?
Maybe a year.
Yeah,
Were you nervous?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Were you nervous?
In the sense that I got stopped. Yeah, with
And
I was mad because I didn't think I did anything wrong.
It's a lot different. We have certain built-in things that we're going to do subconsciously to let people know we're not a threat.
Absolutely.
And he talked about the cat getting upset in the car stop. I've had that happen 100 times because they perceive, they don't know me until I get to the car, but they perceive that a cop is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that's for police to diffuse, and we're working on that. And matter of fact, I think Tom Honeypad does great at it. But anyway, I was riding in Anderson one day. The most violent place in Anderson County is the Alphabet Street. That's where the gangs are. That's where I grew up at. That's where I feel most comfortable. Now, as a 50-year-old police chief. I shouldn't, but I do because I know them people. I know how they are. They know me. And that's the one thing that, and if you're white and you hadn't experienced it, there's no way I can expect you to understand it. But if you just watch the body language of African Americans when you go to stores and watch how theirs is so much different than yours, they're not going to go eat a grape. If their kid goes to eat a grape, they're going to smack their kid's hand. Don't touch that. You'll see that from African American parents because we have a different worldview. We have been through different things. You're going to see us argue different with a manager at a restaurant and go all the way. It's hard. And especially the longer you live, the more you experience it, the more subconscious you become, the more habits you're going to pick up. My mother raised all of her children. She raised us all with a purpose. She intended for us to be extremely confident people, extremely well-rounded people. How many people have to set out to raise your kids that way? You don't. Most people don't. Did you set out to raise yours that way?
Confidence?
Yes. My mother wants us all to be extremely confident. And her reason is because the white world is going to kick on you, and I need you to be able to get back up.
Good stuff right there, Jay.
Yes, sir.
I want you to hear what he said because that investment, those words, I mean, they're serious words, because we're placed in a position, a tough position, as Black Americans. Okay? Making no excuses, but it just brings up all those times when you did go to the store and you did get pulled over, or you did these, and so when what he's saying is we're on a different level of learning when it comes to those kind of things that white folk probably don't understand and maybe never will understand. But if we could teach them something, those are the kind of things that maybe they need to would be great to learn to help fuel, to calm down some of this high temperature stuff that we're dealing with every time it comes up. We tend to play the race card.
And this is a lot of the unseen stuff that is the hidden fire when something very visual and very public happens that releases stuff other people may not know where it came from.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it would be, I would like for my white or non-black friends to understand that and acknowledge, I want them to acknowledge that racism exists. Just because they have not experienced it doesn't mean we hadn't experienced it. And every minority, I feel, experiences it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Period. It exists. Our rules that we learn in our household are different. The conversations we have are different. The way we prepare our children to go out and interact with the world is different. There are kind of unspoken rules. There are instances when I've gone in the store or will go in the store, and if I'm using cash in 2020, there may be a cashier that's not willing to take that money out of my hand. but I already know. I can just lay it on the counter and they'll pick it up from there.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
something subtle like
Yes.
that. So, some people just don't understand it and think because they haven't experienced it that it doesn't exist, but it does exist. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that my mentality, and I think it is the same mentality for a lot of others, we have to give not 100%, 150 or 200% to everything that we do, simply because we have to disprove any negative stereotypes or preconceived notions or thoughts. We have to give more than that because the world has already painted a picture of what they think our culture, society, our place, what it should be. Another thing I think, and I wish and hope and am challenging people to realize is sometimes people are sitting around in conversations and something is inappropriate is said. I wish people would step up to the plate and be like, hey, you know, that's wrong. That's awful. You shouldn't say that. If it's your friend that you're hanging out with or whatever, call them out. You should still be friends after that. But that makes you aware of who they are and it speaks to their character. Or maybe they're not aware of it. Maybe they didn't know that that was a racist or prejudiced comment or they didn't see it that way. But if you are willing to say, hey, that's not right, that's not appropriate, it may be a start to changing and challenging people's thoughts and ways of thinking. You may think it was just a joke, but it's totally disrespectful to the other party, regardless of if that party is there in the room or not. Because nobody's going to tell a black joke while I'm sitting there. They're not. But they may say it in the presence of their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it may make a friend uncomfortable that is my friend.
Right.
But I would hope and wish that that person would be able to say, hey, call them out on it.
Right.
It's not acceptable.